What's up, fantasy people? This is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, and Banjo, the dog, coming at you live from my garage. And this is the Fantasy Footballing Show. Today's episode, Week 16, Thursday night play or pause. Emphasis on the pause. So, this is our, start-sit episode specifically for Thursday night football games. I cover the home team, which is going to be the Jets. Jason covers the away team, which is the Jaguars. So, I'm going to put Banjo down real fast. If you have not watched Jason's video, please go back and watch that. Also, if you guys could just take a second and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, leave a comment, whatever you guys would like to do. Thank you so much for that. And so we will get into this right now. Let me just grab my paper. So the first thing I want to do, thinking that it was, they're playing this in upstate New York in the wintertime, Christmas pretty much. I wanted to look at the weather. So the weather should not be too cold. It's going to be 45 degrees, but has a high chance of, moderate rain throughout. So, nothing like it's not going to be dumping, but, you're going to see the rain on the TV throughout the entire game. So that is going to make a difference, especially for Zach Wilson. I'm not really trusting Zach Wilson in this. I like Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's got, he's like 6'6". He's probably got huge hands. Zach Wilson's a little bit smaller. And it's not like he's really good at throwing the ball anyways. So not that great for him. And sustained winds around 15 mile an hour. So that once it gets like 18, 20, it really starts affecting stuff. But 15 is pretty close. So a lot of, it's going to be wet and windy tomorrow night. So, or tonight. I'm shooting this video yesterday. Sorry. Anyways, the over and under on this game is at 37, so it's a low-scoring game, which, the weather and Zach Wilson kind of reflects this. If Mike White was playing, especially with all, the Jaguars, man, have been allowing so many points. I'll get that into a second, but this is a very low over and under for this game, considering how the Jaguars have been playing. So Jacksonville has allowed an average of 263 passing yards per game and 118 rushing yards per game this season, while allowing 23.4 points. So that's like 21st in the league. It's like in the it's less than it's in the bottom half. So the Jets have a lot of opportunity to score some points, man. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have been allowing 32 points per game over the last 3, and that is the only team worse than that is the Colts. So it's been a lot of overtime games for the Jags lately, but dude, you can score on the Jags, and they put points up on you, so it forces you to. Saying all that, with the weather, Zach Wilson at the helm, Vegas and I am still thinking it's going to be a low-scoring game because the Jets have a really good defense and a pretty poor offense right now without Mike White. So the New York Jets have scored 20 points last game versus the 31st ranked Lions defense. So that is not good. So, they scored 20. This is like, this is like a 20-17 line right here. And I think that they're expecting, so that's like expecting, yeah, dude, probably Trevor Lawrence to get the 20 points, Zach Wilson's team to get the 17. It's not good. But I do have faith, on Jason's side. I would have faith in Trevor Lawrence and all these guys. I wouldn't worry about that. Jacksonville has won 3 of its last 4. And the Jets have lost 3 of the last 4, and they're on a 3-game losing streak. So 2 teams going in opposite directions right now. They're going to meet in the middle. So I talked about the weather. And so the key injuries, Trayvon Walker, the star rookie for the Jacksonville Jaguars, he's going to be out. And their defensive tackle, Foley Fatukasi, is going to be out as well. So that's pretty big for, I would say, God, dude, if Breece Hall was in this game, we'd go, hey, this is huge for Breece Hall. This is pretty big for Zonovan Knight, even though he had a bad game last week, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And then as far as their offense goes, Corey Davis is out, and then Mims is questionable, I think, and Mike White is out as well. So the biggest of those is Mike White. He'd be playing if he was healthy. Zach Wilson, we're getting to the players now. I'm going to say player pause on him. And of course, I'm going to say I have pause on Zach Wilson in this game. So, because he just put up what, dude, like barely any points. They just put up 20 points up against the Lions. So, and the Lions have been playing better defensively, but I don't care, dude. Show me something better than that. Especially when you're going to start somebody in the second round of the fantasy football playoffs. Like, we need some studs, man. I'm assuming you did not make it this far without a pretty decent quarterback, but hey, not Zach Wilson, I'm sure. But we're going to go over this anyways. I keep on talking about this without talking about it. Last QB. He lost his QB job to Mike White weeks ago, and now with Mike White injured, he is back in. He scored 18 points versus the 32nd ranked Lions defense, and now he gets the 27th ranked Jags defense. So 2 good matchups. I mean, he's lucky that these are 2 good matchups for him to start off with. And like I said, dude, the Jags have been giving up so many points. This is a sweet, sweet matchup for him. Dak just threw for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions versus Jags last week. I think that's 2 interceptions. And Tannehill threw for 250 with 2 touchdowns and an interception a couple weeks before that. So the quarterbacks have been doing well against the Jaguars. But, Wilson, I don't trust Wilson at all, dude. So, especially with this weather, like if everything was fine and everything was right, I would trust him. And I think, like I said, I think he's going to get 200 yards and like 2 touchdowns. But is that a starting quarterback for you in your fantasy second round, your fantasy playoffs? No, that is not. So he's going to be able to support 1 or 2 wide receivers, but that you're going to want to start, but you're not going to want to start Zach Wilson. So pause on Zach Wilson. Zonovan Knight. So he led the team in carries last week versus a 6th ranked Lions defense with 13, but only managed 23 rushing yards on those 13 carries. So he was very inefficient, while Michael Carter, I think, only had like 1 rush, but it was for a decent amount of yards. Actually, I have this right now. He was also not targeted by Wilson once. He was averaging 4 targets a game with Mike White. Michael Carter had 5 touches last week to Knight's 13. And Jacksonville is the 21st best run. So they're the 21st best versus fantasy running backs this year. So they're in the bottom half against running backs this year. So you should be able to start your running backs versus the Jaguars. The problem is, I'm looking for, here. This is the object of Banjo's desire, man. Forever. Like if you took that ball from me, he would be yours. He wouldn't even be my dog anymore. He would just forget about me and follow you. See, the problem is with Zonovan Knight is he was extremely valuable with Mike White there, because it was just dump offs. And they feared the passing game way much, so he was getting bigger alleys, not stacked boxes. Do they stack the box against Zach Wilson? They don't care about Zach Wilson. They don't respect Zach Wilson. So now he's not getting. Now he's going to be a less efficient runner, and he's going to catch 0 passes, dude, because Zach Wilson hates to throw to running backs. I don't know why, but he just hates doing it, and that is where all the value for the Jets running backs have been since. I mean, for the last 2 years. I mean, literally for the last 2 years. So I'm going to pause. No. It's tough, man. Let me keep on going through this. He was also Michael Carter at Jacksonville is the 21st best versus running back. So, and the Lions were 6th ranked. So, and he only had 23 rushing yards. You know what, dude? It's kind of funny how I do this on the fly, but we are playing Zonovan Knight. And if we go down in flames, there's not a lot of better options than Zonovan Knight out there right now. And I trust that they're going to want to run the ball a lot, dude. I mean, when Zach Wilson was at the helm with Breece Hall and everything, they just kept on running the ball. And they like to give Zonovan Knight opportunities. And the Lions have been playing the run extremely well for the last couple games. So let's just say that you can run the ball in the Jags. You saw Ezekiel Elliott last week. So let's go for it. We're going to play Zonovan Knight. We're going to say he has 100 total yards. 100 total yards. That's what we're going to say. And then we're going to have to go back and see if we're wrong or not. I try to be within 10% of this. So, within 10 yards of that would be 10%. Garrett Wilson. Now, this is a guy I think you can play, no problem. Led team in targets with 9. I mean, even if you're getting 9 targets from Zach Wilson, that's still a wide receiver 2. And if Garrett Wilson's your wide receiver 2 this year, you're probably doing pretty well. So he led the team in targets with 9 versus the 31st ranked Lions defense last week. That turned into 4 catches for 98 yards. So it's still like very hit and miss. He's going to need a lot of targets just to get his catches. Was kind of a good game, bad game consistency with Wilson earlier on in the year. So he had some good games and then terrible games, good games, terrible games. But we like this matchup. I mean, I keep on talking about how many points the Jaguars are giving away. So I've got to pick a couple people from. I mean, there are going to be a couple successful fantasy players from the Jets, and I've got to pick them. I think it's going to be Zonovan Knight and Garrett Wilson, just from opportunity alone. So those are the opportunity ones, because Garrett Wilson's going to get his targets. And Zonovan Knight, as long as he's healthy, he's going to get his touches. So those are the 2 people I'm confident about. The Jaguars ranked 25th best versus fantasy wide receivers this year, so giving up a lot of points. CeeDee Lamb just had his best game of the year, maybe even career versus the Jags last week with going 7 receptions on 7 targets for 126 yards. And then DJ Chark, kind of like the outside wide receiver in the Lions offense, had his best game of the year as well 2 weeks ago when he played the Jags. He went 5 for 98. So, dude, those are 2 of the last outside wide receivers, number 1 wide receivers for the last 2 teams have been really successful against the Jaguars. So I'm going to say Garrett Wilson continues this. I'm going to say Garrett Wilson catches, let's see, the Jaguars. I'm going to say he gets 80 yards and a touchdown for Garrett Wilson. Now, Elijah Moore, dude. I've been on Elijah Moore. I'm telling you guys, pick up Elijah Moore, man. Pick up Elijah Moore. Ever since he came back from injury. And especially when Mike White, when Mike White took over, that's when I was all preaching his name, because we know how he was last year. So he's a slot wide receiver, right? He actually was second on the team in targets last week versus the Lions defense. That turned into 4 catches for 21 yards. But the big picture of this is he's still getting targeted, even with Zach Wilson's sorry ass in there. Okay. Noah Brown just produced. So Noah Brown was a slot receiver for the Cowboys. He just got 2 touchdowns, 6 for 49, 2 touchdowns. And then the week before that, the slot receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, killed the Jaguars from the slot, 11 for 114 and 2 touchdowns. So that's like, dude, 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks to slot receivers here. I don't think that's going to continue, because we're having Zach Wilson, and like he just hates people, including Elijah Moore for some reason. But I still like Elijah Moore. I expect him to get like around 50. What did he get last week, dude? What do you have? He only had 4 for 21 last week. I think he's going to get 50 yards this week on 5 catches probably. And if you're in a super deep league, you could probably flex him out and hope for that touchdown. But I'm going to have pause on Elijah Moore, even though I don't want to. Dang, I really don't want to, but it's just Zach Wilson in bad weather. I just don't want to deal with it, man. I really don't. It just sucks. So, and like I said, Jacksonville's 21st best against the run. So you could run on Jacksonville, and I'm sure that Robert Saleh just wants to run the ball and play good defense and minimize everything that Zach Wilson does. Just because he had one halfway decent game doesn't mean much, to me at least. Okay, so Tyler Conklin, the tight end that I really liked with Mike White, recurring theme now, right? So Jacksonville's 25th best versus fantasy tight ends this year. Sweet matchup for Tyler Conklin, but he just had 2 targets and 1 reception for 1 reception to 7 yards last week versus the 28th ranked Lions defense. So even a better matchup last week, he got nothing, right? So we're living week to week here, people. And the last thing you want to do is start a tight end that like got you 0 points last week. Just look elsewhere. I told, and maybe Zach Wilson keeps it short this game and just actually hits Conklin because of the weather. But are you going to risk that in the second round? If you win this game, you go to the championship. So if you can pivot off of Conklin, just do it, dude. Go get Juwan Johnson for God's sakes, dude. Spend your fab, man. So anyways, but tight ends, I do want to say Dalton Schultz just had 2 receptions and 15 yards versus Jacksonville last week. So they shut out Dalton Schultz. But the week before that, Okonkwo had a really good week, went 6 for 45 with a touchdown. So it's been a mixed bag with the tight ends going against the Jags lately. So there is a risk here that I say pause and Tyler Conklin actually, produces. But like I said, dude, it's not worth the risk to me. And it's all Zach Wilson. It's all Zach Wilson, man. I really don't trust him. I really don't think I like him, especially after he threw his defense under the bus. I was just like, dude, that looks like people from, my supervisors at work, Oh, I didn't do anything wrong. It was this guy. BS, man. Take some responsibility. Defense. Jets defense, right? The Jets have been allowing an average of 18.8 points per game, which is 4th in the league this year. And the Jaguars have been 4th, but the Jaguars have been 4th toughest against opposing fantasy defenses this year. Dude, you saw what the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys were in a trap game, versus the Jags last week. So I can't really take that for what it is. But if I have the Jets defense and the game is calling for, 45 degrees is not that bad, but wind and rain, I'm starting the Jets defense. I'm going to play the Jets defense. I'm pausing on Conklin. I'm pausing on Elijah Moore. I'm playing Zonovan Knight, playing Garrett Wilson, pausing Zach Wilson, for God's sakes, playing the defense. And hey, you can play Greg Zuerlein here. I talked about the opportunity of points against the Jaguars. And you know who I don't trust to throw a lot of touchdowns or, actually produce a lot of touchdowns in the red zone? Zach Wilson and the Jets right now. So I think that Greg Zuerlein is going to have a lot of opportunities for field goals. So I say play Greg Zuerlein. He's a number 7 fantasy kicker on the year, and but the only problem is he has only 4 fantasy points in 4 of the last 7 games. So he gets 4 fantasy points in 4 of the last 7 games. But I just like how many points the Jaguars have been giving up. So this is all about opportunity here, folks. Because I do think that the points are going to have to come against the Jaguars. I don't think the Jaguars are going to be shutting them out. And I don't trust Zach Wilson. So, hey, field goal, they score points. Field goal kickers do. I do trust Greg Zuerlein, the big Z. Zoltan. The bubble bump. The bubble bump. If you haven't seen Dude, Where's My Car, go check out Dude, Where's My Car. And so that is it today, people. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it if you guys made it to the end. I appreciate it if you just clicked on this video. Thank you so much. And I will be going home tomorrow, Thursday, to Derek Carr's hometown and my hometown for Christmas. So I hope everybody else has great holidays, whatever you believe in. Keep on believing. And I'm going to try to put out the same amount of videos we are as if I wasn't here. Hopefully my parents allow me to do that. And my wife is, who knows? I'm going to have to leave them alone in a room while I go shoot videos. So we'll see how that goes. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you later.